Welcome to the Lindsay and Tony podcast, where we talk about spirituality, business, and life experiences.
In this podcast, we're bringing our private conversations to you.
We believe that it's through discussion, action, and reflection that true change occurs.
Hi everybody, welcome to episode 79, 10 Things You Probably Don't Know About Us. In this episode, we get vulnerable and we share a few things from our heart that you've never heard us say before, for the most part. I hope everybody enjoys the show.
Hi guys, welcome back. We're so excited that you're here. Today's episode is all about 10 things that you may not know about us. We wanted to switch up this episode because we're always talking about things that are serious, and we thought this could kind of break up that whole bit of, teaching. So you want to start, Tony?
Yeah, so let's jump right into it. 10 things you probably don't know about us. So number one is Lindsay. When she was her first year teaching in kindergarten, you were a fairy at the mall, a bartender, a tutor, and a kindergarten teacher all at the same time.
Yeah, that is true. I definitely dressed up in fairy wings and sold fairy dust and was at the mall. It started when, let me think, I don't know if I was in college or I was just graduating. I might have been in my internship for going into to observe the classrooms. But definitely I was a fairy by day and bartender at night. It was a lot of jobs. And then I even babysat actually during that time. So there was a lot going on.
And then you were teaching kindergarten too, right?
Oh yeah, it was like kindergarten cop. It was all at the same.
So you were teaching kindergarten a couple days a week, or was that full-time?
No, it was full-time.
Oh yeah.
Because I was supposed to take over someone's classroom, and she had the baby early. So she went into labor early, so I didn't really get any time to learn her routines. So it was not a good experience with that classroom at all.
So Lindsay does more than just give readings.
Yes.
She could be a fairy also.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so number 2, this is about Tony. When Tony was really little, he used to swim in ditches with alligator snapping turtles. So I don't know how he didn't come out with any kind of diseases, but he didn't.
I may have some, you don't know.
Yeah.
I'm surprised I still have all 10 on my toes with alligator snapping turtles, because if you don't know what they are, they hiss at you. And I believe they really can bite your toes off, if I remember right. I don't know if that was just a myth back then.
Wait, so you were in elementary school, right?
It was when we lived in a mobile home park called Missouri Mobile, and we had ditches in there because we lived close to the river, the Missouri River, so the ditches would always fill up pretty high when it would rain out. And I was probably 5 years old at the oldest, but it was between those years, 4 and 5.
Oh my God.
We'd all be just swimming in the ditch. We didn't have a pool, so we were like, we'll swim in the ditch.
That's crazy. That place isn't around anymore, right?
No, that place actually, that was the last year that it was around. Okay. It was when I was like 5, swimming in ditches. It probably closed it out once they saw little kids swimming in ditches. But it was fun. I wouldn't take it back. It was an interesting time in my life.
If you got bit, you probably would take it.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
All right, so then number 3 is we use cartoon voices to diffuse the tension in our house and in our relationship. When we first started dating, and then I believe after we got married, maybe is when we got the book on marriage.
It was
actually right when we first started.
Before we got married.
Right when we first started dating, actually.
Yes.
Is when we got this book. It was over marriage and all of that, and one of we've actually never even read the whole book yet.
No.
But that was like a valuable thing that we learned in it, because it said, what did it say specifically in there?
It said something about there's ways that you could diffuse situations even before they come up. But I think we were already doing those voices.
We were already doing the voices, but then it confirmed it for us. We're like, oh yeah, that's what it was. So I'm like, hey. Yeah. we do a lot of different voices. You want to give one of yours?
No.
Come on.
But there was a time that I actually slipped up and did it in front of someone. I don't know who it was in front of, but I'm like, oh my gosh, where did that voice come from? Because we do it all day.
Yeah.
So,
well, because we work with each other, we're married, we live with each other.
We're with each other a
tension
lot.
Builds up, right? Wouldn't you imagine?
But we also talk like that even when there's no tension.
That's true, but I think it's like unconsciously we're trying to pave out the future tension.
Yeah.
Or maybe tension that might happen.
Exactly. But it really does work. So if you're listening to this and you do that, let us know so we don't feel so crazy. But it actually does work.
I actually did. Now that I think about it, we were just in Boston in August, and we were eating for your mom's birthday.
Oh yeah.
And the voice came out. I was just joking around, and Lindsay's mom was like, "What was that? That sounded familiar." I was like, "Oh, that's my Family Guy voice."
Yeah. Oh my God. But it really does work, and I'm gonna have to. I don't have the book with me, but I was actually looking at it because it's such a good book. Like whether you're in a marriage or you're just having relationships with human beings, it's a really good book.
Even though we didn't read it all, but the fact that we just read a little bit of it and we got some gold nuggets out of it that really impacted our relationship, I do want to finish it.
But they call it something, and I forget the name of it, but it's the 7 principles of something.
Of marriage, probably.
Probably. I don't even remember the author. But they did research studies, and they put couples in a room, and they lived in this apartment that looked like a regular apartment, and they did studies on how they argued, because they say everyone argues. If you're a couple, you're going to argue. It's how you argue that counts, and the things that you do in between. And one of the things that they found with lasting relationships was there were certain diffusers that come up, and that's one of them is actually to make a joke throughout to break up the tension.
Or use a cartoon voice like...
Exactly. No,
I'm
not
cartoon?
gonna, no, I can't do it on the spot.
All right, number 4.
Is that me?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're all the even numbers.
Oh, I hate this one, but this is true. Actually, both me and Tony both had spaces in our teeth growing up. Mine was definitely worse than yours.
Lindsay hates it because hers was literally, like, you could fit probably 2 teeth in between.
No, it was a tic-tac.
1.5 at least.
It was no.
Like mine was pretty big to where you could probably fit almost a toothpick.
Yours naturally
almost a
shut.
Toothpick. Mine did naturally shut. I never got braces.
I had braces, and you have perfect teeth.
No, my wisdom teeth actually started to push my bottom teeth together for about a year, so they're a little bit crooked, and then I had to get those chopped out. But thank God, these 2 front teeth that I used to have a gap, they close naturally on their own.
I just wonder if
Lindsay's was huge though. We have to get a picture, maybe post it in the comments, or
this.
We should. It's so funny.
Tony, it was horrible. It was horrible.
So number 5 is. You probably wouldn't know this about Lindsay or think this about Lindsay because she's so laid back, and she's just a laid back person. Well, she's been skydiving, bungee jumping, and then somehow convinced me to do a hot air balloon in Napa Valley, California when we were there a couple years ago.
I like to do those types of things, and I usually actually don't tell my parents until after I do them, so they don't worry and don't try to convince me not to do it. But yeah, we went in Napa Valley to go on a hot air balloon ride, and Tony's like, I really don't want to do this. And finally he said yes. And I thought it was a good experience.
It was a great experience, other than the fact that I had to use the restroom the whole time we were up in the air.
And the guy was telling us stories about how he landed on a canyon, right?
Oh yeah, he was telling us all of these.
Oh my God.
Like fear. He was a real funny guy. I forget what you call those people that run the hot air balloons.
Yeah.
But he's been doing it for like 20 years, 30 years, and he was just a showman. He was very interesting. But when we were all the way at the top, at the highest we went, he was telling us how he almost died on a hot air balloon.
I wasn't nervous because you kind of prepare your head to when you're doing these things, but I think Tony was already nervous, and there was some other
I was
people.
nervous leading up to it.
But
then I had to use the restroom right when they started to put the flame and the hot air balloon. I'm looking at the restroom, and it's like a mile this way. I'm not going to make it. So then we go up in the hot air balloon, and somehow I blocked it out, and it really was a great time. And once we got up there, I had no fear other than the fact that I didn't know if I was going to use the restroom up in the air. And then at one point, the hot air balloon actually, he started to come down, and I'm like, oh, thank God we're about ready to leave, because it was about 45 minutes into it, and he said that it could last about 45 minutes to an hour or so. So we're about ready to land. He's like, nope, I'm just kidding. Who wants to go 15 minutes longer?
I know, and I
like,
think
oh
everyone
my
was
gosh.
cheering at that point. So
Everybody
you
was
couldn't really say
cheering to
anything.
go back up, and I couldn't say anything. I was like, we were on the
And I
hot
was
air balloon in
dying
this
laughing.
basket with like 20 other people.
Yeah, that was funny.
Number
Okay,
6.
so number 6 is... Okay, I'm trying to read your writing. Oh, yeah, your first basketball or football? I forget what you said.
Basketball.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so Tony's first basketball, he was
My
crying.
first year playing
Your
basketball.
first year, he was crying when he lost. But also, I want to go along with this, too, because for your Christmas tree... When your mom was trying to get rid of the Christmas tree,
Yeah, I was
Christmas
crying.
over, you were crying. And how old were you then?
I was
You were
probably
older.
about 4. No,
Oh, I thought you were older than that.
4. I still lived in that mobile home park that we talked about at the beginning, and I was felt really attached to the Christmas tree. Going back to the basketball, our team was like, it was my first year playing, and I was not really good my first year. I got really good my second year. My first year we were like 1-9, so I was crying pretty often. And actually, Nick, everybody who watches this podcast, about Nick, our friend that passed away, that Lindsay was actually going to marry. He was my best friend growing up. He was on my team at the time, and he would always come to me at the end of the game because he'd see me crying. I'd be crying like 30 seconds. I'm like, we're going to lose again. And I'm sitting there crying. And he'd be like coaching me saying, everything's all right. We got one more game next week. And I forget what else he would say.
I could see him doing that too.
Well, then I stopped doing it probably from Nick's coaching. And I don't know what made me
stop. And then you became the best player.
Yeah, because
you and your brother.
We'd practice like 5, 6, 7 hours a day.
Yeah, you could have gone professional.
So it's probably because I cried so much.
That was a learning
So then number 7... Lindsay and I, we did not meet the first month that we were dating.
Yeah.
Or that we knew we were going to be together. We already decided over the phone, like, we're going to be together. You feel that too? And then the first 8 months, we traveled back and forth from St. Louis to Tampa or actually 9 months before I actually ended up moving to Tampa. So.
Yeah, we wouldn't even go on, at the time, I had a different type of phone. Did I have a flip phone? Yeah, I did have a flip phone. But we could have gone on a video chat at the beginning, but we didn't because we wanted to see each other for the first time in person.
Yeah, the first month we didn't.
So all we saw were photos on Facebook, and that's it.
We heard each other's voice over the phone, and we just knew.
Right away, that first night, we knew that we were going to talk forever. Mm-hmm. The first night we spoke was 6 or 8 hours.
So just a little moral of that story is your intuition is powerful.
Yeah.
Like we were both. I'm young still. I feel young. I was 23 years old, and Lindsay was 26. 26, 27. I think you're about 4 years older than me. But we trusted at that moment.
Yeah,
like we just
27.
we knew that this is it, right? Like she didn't want a boyfriend. I didn't want a girlfriend at the time. And it was just like, it happened. So if you know, and that goes with your career, relationships, even little small decisions, where you're going to eat, what you're going to do next week.
That was actually 2 days before my birthday that we ended up talking, remember? It was 2 days before, so it was December 6th.
December 6th we started talking, and then birthdays, December 8th. Actually, December 6th on Lindsay's grandparents' anniversary, which was kind of ironic.
Crazy.
I don't call it a coincidence. It was very ironic, though.
No.
It's number 8.
Number 8, well, you've already heard Tony talk about this, but Tony has always not always, but you lived in a mobile home park. So when I first met Tony, he was in a mobile home park. So I didn't care either way, but I had this idea of what the mobile home park would look like because I was going to visit. He had already visited me in Florida, and I had to go there.
So this was the first month before we had met each other.
Right. And I actually had never been in a mobile home park neighborhood, so I was imagining I was walking into an RV, and that's where he lived, actually. And he thought he was going to meet me, and I was going to be, like, really small, too, because
I thought she's like, I'm 5'1" or 5 foot. I'm like, wait, is that midget? Or what is that? But going back to, at the time, I was living in a mobile home, and Lindsay finally ended up coming, I think, what was it, 2 months after we started talking?
Probably, because you came the first month.
I came in January. I think you might have came in February, maybe 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, I forget.
But anyway, she comes and she stays in St. Louis, and we're in my mobile home, and then all of a sudden we're in my kitchen, and we both could barely fit in my kitchen, actually. And we're
No, it wasn't that small.
It's small. It was a small place, but we're just sitting there talking,
wasn't an
and all of a
RV
sudden
mobile
my mobile home starts shaking.
I'm like, what the heck is that? I was thinking, like, is this a tornado? I know tornadoes could come in Missouri.
I'm like, no, that's just my washer and dryer. I'm doing laundry. My mobile home would shake when I would do laundry. So, adding more to that story, so she definitely wasn't coming for me for my money.
No.
Because I didn't have any at the time. I was trying to figure out things in my life. And at the time, before she came, I cleaned my place real good. And then I went to Walmart and I bought a remote control and I got my TV working in my room because it wasn't working at that point. And then I bought new pillows because my pillows had like a yellow kind of stain, like stainish look on them. Like, no, they need to be clean for her. So then I tell you that to tell you this. After she left, I actually ended up taking back the pillow and the remote, even though it was probably a total of $20 because I needed the money.
Yeah.
So it was pretty interesting.
We laugh about it now because of the whole, everything that I feel like since we met, it's been some crazy experiences, but that is like really funny, that part of it.
It is funny.
Looking back on it, but also, why it's so important to listen to your intuition and not let outside circumstances affect anything either.
Yeah, like if the guy's broke or the female's broke, look in their soul, and if you see that they're an abundant soul moving somewhere,
there's something.
Follow your intuition. The looks could be deceiving sometimes because at that point I was on fire in my mind, and I knew I
knew that too.
I came across the law of attraction 2 years before that lit my life on fire, and I was just like, I knew that I was creating this beautiful life, and then it just keeps manifesting. So no matter where you are right now, just keep on focus. Keep surrounding yourself around good people. I was lucky to draw into my life somebody like Lindsay, who has totally blessed my life. And Lindsay was lucky to draw me in.
I was just going to say, I'm grateful that I drew you in.
So that's number 8.
Okay, you're next.
All right, so number 9. Oh, so I have 2 things here. So when Lindsay's dad just told me this again when we were in town, when she was a baby and probably all the way up to like 4, or maybe even older, you could fill me in, she'd have a milk ring around her lips because she drank so much milk. Like her lips were like crusted, like she had a mustache.
Oh
right? What ages what was that?
Yeah, I was little. I probably like 3 or something.
Yeah.
But I always drank milk up until actually college. That's when I stopped drinking milk.
So she had a milk stash and she loved peanut butter and jelly.
Every lunch meal was peanut butter and jelly. Always. People used to say, you're going to turn into peanut butter and jelly, because I would eat it so much.
And last but not least.
Okay, and the last thing is we're both middle children. So Tony and I are really similar, but we're different too. But we're very similar in that way. But I think we have the same qualities in the way that the typical middle child is. The peacemakers in the family, I don't even know what else the characteristics are of middle children, but I think that's really important.
Yeah, they tend, I feel like the ones that I meet, maybe I'm drawing them into my experience, they tend to balance out the rest of the family.
Yeah.
Like they're like the mediums or whatever you want to call them.
Some of my students are middle children too, that I could totally relate. But I want to add something.
Yeah.
That's actually an extra number.
Anything that's coming up.
So Tony is actually really, really musical. And the one thing that I would say about Tony is he's always consistent. He's very good at being consistent at things. And it was in college, I think that's when it started, was the drums. You taught yourself how to play the drums every day for 1.5 years without stopping. And that's kind of what he does. That's once he commits to something, it's nonstop. So when we first met, actually, he created the song that came to him, not on the drums, but on a keyboard. And that song, he started singing and the melody came to him. And it was all about drawing someone in. Right?
Yeah, lyrics were, I'm going to make my way to you. And it just came over me. It was actually about 1.5 months or so before I started, before Lindsay and I actually spoke on the phone that December. So it was like October, November. And it was just, I looking back and how I look at music now, I feel like all music is channeled.
Yeah.
And really everything's channeled, but when you're really tapping in to that creative side of your mind, you're channeling deep information. And looking back, I feel like I was channeling my future. It was like I was aligning, like I'm gonna make my way to you.
And when I heard that song, it sounded so familiar to me. So it's almost like your energy recognizes other people's energy, whether it's in a relationship or you're just friends with someone, you're supposed to meet someone. There's a reason and there's a feeling with it. So I think that's important. But I wanted to bring up the music thing because Tony doesn't talk about it enough, but he has a beautiful voice. He could be on the radio. And he plays the guitar, he plays the piano. He's pretty much good at anything that you could think of. He's good at it because he stays consistent and keeps on practicing. And it's very natural because when he does things, he only does things that he's passionate about. So I think that's important to talk about. And he's really, really funny. Just you don't always see it on the podcast.
That's why I keep her around, because she always fills me with compliments.
No, it's funny
like this.
Because our nieces and nephews were like, we watched your podcast and Tony seems serious on the podcast because they're so used to him being goofy. But everyone that knows Tony knows that that's how he is.
Yeah, so I'm learning how to translate my full personality through camera. Yeah, it takes practice.
Oh yeah, I feel like I'm still getting used to it too. But we hope that this episode gave you a little bit more of a background about us, stuff that's little things, but also some big things too. Because I think that's important. When you're listening to a podcast, you want to know a little bit about the people that are actually communicating with you. So we hope this episode was helpful for you. If you can relate to any of the stuff yourself, share with us, or just share with us about you. We want to learn about you as listeners too. Okay, guys, we will talk to you soon. We hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did. If you liked it, leave a 5-star review on iTunes, and remember, subscribe to our YouTube channel too.
If you can think of anyone else that would love this episode, share it with them right now on social media or email. And remember, getting results is a process of learning, applying, and reflecting. Stay consistent and continue to grow every day.